Hey there, everybody. I'm Carson Grubaugh. Thanks for joining us on Living the Line for Formalism Friday with our favorite guest, Brandon Graham.
Your only guest on Formalism Friday.
Yeah, but our favorite guest, you keep coming back.
Thank you for having me.
We got to finish up Appleseed sometime soon too.
Oh yeah. I've just started pulling out Orion because I'm really fascinated with what Shiro did with the storytelling in this one.
I'm hoping that with the new Ghost in the Shell, like all-in-one hardcover that's coming out, they'll get the rest of his work out too, because I really want to get Orion.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
What are the Orion, Appleseed, Ghost in the Shell?
Like, Dominion?
Dominion, yeah, those are the big four, right?
Yeah, well, I have my Shiro box right here.
Brandon's got them all.
A friend of mine was asking me the other day if I have copies of Ghost in the Shell, and it occurred to me that I have 4 printings because I'm a weird Shiro hoarder.
Well, there's a new all-in-one deluxe hardcover coming out.
Yeah, I mean, this is embarrassing. I've got
like you just buy them whenever you see them.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, the multiple ones is kind of weird, and they have weird things like here's just a free promotional thing they did.
Oh, that's cool.
And then they did like the Dark Horse did the hyper notes in the smaller book, and I wish these ones were bigger. So he did Black Magic was his first one.
That's the other one that I knew there was.
Yeah, and then Dominion's almost like a weird side thing he did.
Okay.
You get Appleseed ad in the back of this one.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dominion, and then Ghost in the Shell. There's 3 different books of. There's this thing called Ghost in the Shell Human Error Processor, which is like was going to be Ghost in the Shell 2, but then it's kind of printed as a weird side book, and this one's almost the most like procedural cop one he did. And then
that's going to be part of the new collection, I think, because that's like 1.5
multiple editions of the.
Yeah.
And this one has one of these has a sex scene, and the other one he redrew it as this just the characters on a boat.
I'm looking forward to seeing if that, because you said it's a really like egregious, no need for it sex scene.
Yeah, and it actually makes the story worse in some ways. It's been a while since I've read it, but I remember the gist of it is basically like this cybernetic black ops assassin character also highlights as a prostitute and only sleeps with hot chicks. It's just this very like, okay, dude, whatever. I mean, you draw good.
Well, I look forward to seeing if they put that, because it's Kodansha that's putting it out, not Dark Horse.
Oh, interesting.
I think that the new hardcover, so I'm hoping that they keep that in there because that sounds funny. Yeah,
because I mean, this edition I have is Kodansha, and this is the one that is the edited version.
Oh, okay.
And the Dark Horse one is the one that I think just has the adult stuff in it.
Okay, so I'll probably get the edited version because that's got the color. Yeah, parachuting down onto the sex boat, huh?
Yeah, but this one's just they're just hanging out. So I'll rant about it before I get started. But
we'll wait. I think that's supposed to come out in November, and we'll definitely do a big Ghost in the Shell.
Excellent.
Review. Okay, so today I've got I forget which book this is, but it's obviously Eduardo Rizzo. I just liked this sequence. I forget, Kitty Show Queen involved in satanic orgies. Okay, well, that's not what I liked about it, but I really just liked this repetition of this face, like in this empty background, and then like the characters filling in around it, like that moment where he's frustrated and like he realizes that it's attacking him, like, you used me, you son of a bitch, no. And how isolated he feels in that moment, and then just the transition to actually like the crowd seeing all of this stuff that's obviously on this big TV screen on the news or whatever. Like just his sense of loneliness within that crowd.
Yeah, I like that a lot. There's something that almost adds to it, like it's like you have this individual grief, and then it's like all these characters are feeling that.
Yeah, well, and they're just feeling the shock, but he's feeling like the grief and the anger. And
the woman on the top right of the thing seems to like she's dealing with it harder than anyone else. she's got her makeup running. Maybe she's a juggalo.
Yeah, the Juggalo crowd. And I don't even remember what the whole rest of the context of the story was. I just remember thinking that that was a really cool moment. It was kind of like that Chainsaw Man one that you showed us, like how having a crowd to track everything against will make a big difference.
Oh yeah, certainly. I remember. How'd you pronounce his name? Was it? I always called him Eduardo Rizzo.
Well, I said Hizzo, but that's my assumption that he's Portuguese.
Oh yeah, and I mean you probably have a better guess than I do. I was just spelling it out like an idiot.
Yeah, no, the only reason I know that is because I watch so much mixed martial arts, and so many of those people are from Brazil.
Oh yeah.
And so if there's the R, they say the H, like Royce Gracie instead of Royce Gracie. But I don't know. He may be Spanish, and then it would be Rizzo.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure with him, but one thing I would associate with him was he, especially when he was doing 100 Bullets, he would do these great panels that were like someone would open a fridge and the shot would be from inside the fridge looking out, and he had such a great way of like doing panels that you wouldn't expect.
Where it'd be like framed like the inside of the fridge is creating the panel kind of thing.
Yeah, or someone would be like fixing a car and you'd see like from inside the engine or something as they reach in with a bunch of shadows around it.
Yeah, and you know what else I associate with that is Breaking Bad, the
Oh, I haven't seen
television show. Have you ever watched that?
it. I haven't. I've seen one episode.
Oh, it's so good. You got to watch it. And they do that too. They always put the camera in the most interesting place,
Okay. Huh.
like really unexpected places. Yeah, the camera work in that show. I mean, beyond it just being an exceptionally well written show, the camera work is phenomenal.
Okay, I should check it out. Yeah, the years ago, me and my friend James Stocco, Orkstein cartoonist and all the other fantastic stuff he's done. We heard about Breaking Bad when it came out, and we're like, it's about a teacher that sells meth, and we had this idea that it was just like the most lowbrow, just like it just starts out as this grimy teacher who's selling meth, and he's the main character. And then when you watch the first episode, it actually is like shows how a reasonable person would get to selling meth, and it was almost like disappointing. Or like, oh, we don't want to be explained. We just want it to be just like a guy who comes out with two machine guns firing in the middle of sociology class and sells meth.
Well, yeah, it gets to that point. I mean, not in class, but it definitely gets over the top.
Okay.
But that shows all about the arc of like where someone, like how someone turns bad and how bad someone can turn and why. And it's probably the first thing where I really realized that my interest in stories had changed from the point that was being made by the story to just character development.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Like I don't know about you, but I feel like when I was younger, I really wanted a story that I felt like made some point. And if I didn't know what the philosophical worldview that the story was communicating by the end, I didn't understand why I read it.
Huh. I often feel like a lot of stories get a lot of I was complaining recently about how a lot of stories get stuck in a certain point, and it's not really about character movement. It's about like, especially in comic books and animation, it's like, I don't know, Richie Rich is always like, 10 years old or however he is, and there's no just like Richie Rich when he was in college and when he was older. It's always this static character. And and I feel like it makes change like that in comics, kind of like what we think of as most comics, kind of harder. Like, I guess Peter Parker's life kind of moves along at inches, but it's never quite about him changing as a character.
Well, and that's why I don't know, just as I get older, like, I mean, how many fucking Spider-Man stories can I read? And like, it used to be, oh, well, they're making this point with this story, and I could get into that. But yeah, it's just on a loop. And I mean, you have people like I used to, like I said, I like that type of work the best. And as I get older, I feel like, well, I don't want you to tell me what you think so much as just like explore a theme. And character seems more like you can explore a theme without having a concrete answer at the end of it.
I like that. Yeah, so much better than like delivering rather than like delivering a speech through your work, you're almost like trying to just explore where something might go.
Yeah, and I feel like I gravitated towards people that delivered speeches when I was younger, probably because I was a philosophy major, you know? So it was like that's what I thought good was people who, and I feel like Alan Moore, we're crapping on him on the last episode or in between recordings or something. He's still, you know, he was my number one, like forever. And he's the ultimate speech giver. Like he's always got this tidy little point that he's making, I feel. And as I've gotten older, I look at that as he's pretty sophomoric in my mind now. And
Okay.
not
Are there
very,
are there writers in comics you can think of that are good at showing like character arcs?
I think someone that I'm becoming more fond of is Gilbert Hernandez,
Okay.
because I don't know that he's good at character arc necessarily. I don't think he's the best writer, but I like that just sprawling. He didn't have any idea where that whole Palomar thing was going. It kind of
Sure.
just keeps growing. I think that's a decent example.
Yeah, I've come to admire that he's a guy that's willing to take a lot of risk. Like he will just do a weird thing in a story to try it out, and you kind of don't know what you'll get from him. And I think it gives really high highs and low lows because of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think he's the best example of someone who's a really nuanced character writer. It's just someone who doesn't have like a point that they're making. They're kind of willing to just kick off this generational drama and kind of let the story go where it goes. But I don't think he's someone that investigates themes real seriously either. I don't. He just kind of just seems to go wherever he wants to go.
Yeah, because it's like high art comics, but it also sometimes feels very just like trashy Telemundo.
Yeah, so he's not the best example, just off the cuff. I don't know who else would be a really good.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that came to my mind is thinking of like Urasawa's 20th Century Boys. How you see characters kind of age at different points in life, but I don't know if the characters change that much as they're just at different places in their lives.
It's definitely the Japanese are like there's one I just started reading. I think it's right behind me there. Yeah, the Sensei's Pious Lie, which is a manga that's just all about this woman who she's a school teacher, but she was raped by her friend's boyfriend, and then she has to advise a student who got molested by an older woman in his neighborhood, and her preconceptions about men's aggression can't allow her to think that the boy could have been raped.
Oh wow, that sounds dark and heavy.
Yeah, but it's like really complex, like thematically complex, and there's not like an answer about who's right or wrong. And you actually see her assumptions about like this, like a man always has the power. He couldn't, how could you be sexually molested? You know, and then their relationship then, like, you know, it causes friction between them, and then they develop a untoward love interest in each other. So I think I'm seeing it more in the Japanese. I like Goodnight Pun Pun as well.
Okay.
With Inio Asano. I think, you know, I don't think it's the same type of thing as Breaking Bad, but I'm seeing it more in the Japanese. The Blood on the Tracks is a really cool manga that I was reading.
Oh, I just got one by that author. I think a vampire book, if it's the same person I'm thinking of.
Yeah, Shuzo Oshini or something like that. Really good. How's the vampire one? What's that one that you got?
I just started flipping through it. I have a bunch of manga here. I'm slowly going through I'm on volume 2 of Chainsaw Man now, which is enjoyable so far.
Yeah, I'm surprised about that, because that's one of those ones I kind of wrote off, but I keep hearing good things.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's very simple and almost like a Rumiko Takahashi way, where the character's motivation is just like food and touching breasts, and it's like hundreds of pages have passed, and that's his motivation still. And I'm here for it, but I hear that it really goes somewhere interesting, and that idea keeps me going. Another friend of mine loaned me Raw Hero, which is just this incredibly trashy manga about a guy who, to feed his family, he takes a job as a superhero, and his boss is like this like intense pervert who's accidentally switches out his like thing that he's giving a girl to wear when they're having sex, of like a schoolgirl outfit, to the guy who's going to be a superhero. So he wears this like weird Japanese idol cross-dressing thing to go fight crime in, and he doesn't realize that he's not supposed to be.
The
Very,
cover looks like it should be on the shelf next to Dick Fight Island.
yeah, I know it's that it's on those same lines. So, and one of the interests in this kind of stuff is just like, I can't imagine an American publisher making this right now, and that's a lot of what I read right now. Not to be the edgiest edgelord, but I'm always like buying comics because I'm like, I can't imagine this on shelves right now.
But we were talking about that before we started recording, and I actually, we're talking about character, like I think Matt Fraction's Sex Criminals really has that same over the top jizz fairies.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
But it's such like when I got that book and Tori was like, what in the fuck are you buying, like Sex Criminals? And I was like, yeah, these people, like when they fuck, it freezes time and then they can like rob a bank. And she's like, oh my God. I said, no, but it's like really actually really like a thoughtful exploration of like adult relationships. Like it's really well written and thoughtful. And she's like, yeah, whatever. And same with Saga. Like I'm, the first time I showed to her, I'm like, look at this dragon sucking his dick. And so that's what she thinks the book is. But I'm like, no. It's like a really, really heartfelt, thoughtful family about story. So
I think you're right with the first thing about Saga.
it's more about the dragon sucking the dick.
Yeah. Just to pick on Saga for a second, but it's because you're right. I mean, especially Sex Criminals. I remember getting really meta after a while, and it was basically just like Zdarsky and Fraction like on the phone talking about the comic at some points in the comic.
Yeah, well, Matt Fraction seems to have this problem throughout his career. I'm a big fan of his work, and I think this is part of what I like about him is he always seems to be trying to evolve himself as a thinker.
Okay.
And so he'll start, and I think this is what happened to Sex Criminals, because he'll talk about these things in the work itself is where it gets meta, where like halfway through the run, his personal outlook on life will change, and then he doesn't know how to finish because he starts finding holes in his own project, and he doesn't know how to. He knew how to close it up when he started, sure. But when his worldview changes, then it's like, well, fuck, I've like committed people to this as fans, but now like I can't even accept my own art anymore, and I don't know how to change course. And he'll struggle with that in his books, which is annoying but also interesting.
Yeah, part of me feels like that's him just not making the concessions you need to make a book. Because I'll hit points with my work where I'll just be like, I am not, you feel like there's a Tarantino quote I think about a lot where he talks about how he doesn't know how the endings of his movies are going to be until he's like in the middle and knows the characters and knows the situation backwards and forwards, and then he can figure out the ending. But when he's making the beginning, he's not even trying to think about that. And and I always make the analogy that it's like balancing a broom on your hand and trying to run around the room with it. It's like if you want to go to the door with a broom on your hand, you might end up at the opposite wall because you're following the thing. And sometimes story has to be that way, and sometimes you have to make concessions and kind of almost not like, yeah, I think one of my critiques of Fraction, he's like a magician that shows his tricks a little bit, where you almost have to come up with better tricks to pull it off.
Yeah, he like shows his struggle, and it's consistent throughout his work. Like Casanova too. It's like, oh, I have this seven story. There's 7 volumes, is what he said. 7-volume thing that I'm gonna do, and we're still at like volume 3 because. And he's always writing in the back, like the Casanova was always like 17 pages, and then like these essays and stuff where he's talking about his creative process and how he's struggling to figure out this thing, or how he had this idea and now it just doesn't jive with his view of reality. And there, yeah, I don't know. He's one of those, he's like Kanye West to me. Where every time I get a new Kanye album, I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Uh-huh.
And like, I don't like this. This is weird. But then I keep like putting it in because I don't know what to make of it. It was like
Right.
the first time I ate fried pickles. I was like, I ate the pickle and I was like, it's not disgusting, but I don't like it. I just don't know what to make of it. So I had to eat like 10 more
Okay.
to
Are these things
figure
you
it
might
out.
eat in the end, or are you critical still,
Of fried pickles.
or just fried pickles, Kanye West, and Matt Fraction
Well,
as a genre?
it's just the fact that I keep mulling it over that I have to go, okay, well, it's good.
Okay, interesting. Um, yeah, because I think that kind of turned me off to sex criminals, as I felt like self-indulgent in a way that almost was just like, um, yeah, I kind of, as I go very high art and very low art with comics, because all the time, because I want them to be plumbing the depths of somebody's existence and everything, but I'm also like, but get the story done. Like, you put a price tag on the cover. It's your job, you know.
Yeah, and I think he does fail in that regards many times. And I think he's very willing to start a series and then abandon it. Like he did that one with Howard Chaykin that was interesting, that was about just like
Satellite Man.
radio.
Yeah, I remember.
Radios.
I got the impression with that one that it was almost like he had too much reverence for, like, he's working with his hero, and he had too much reverence for the guy to really like challenge him.
Well, and then at the end of it, it goes from black and white into color now, and like season 2 coming soon, and like that book will never come out.
Sure.
Casanova will never be finished. Sex Criminals actually got finished amazingly, and it
Yeah, well,
just,
Zdarsky's a workhorse, so I imagine that was probably had something to do with it.
yeah, and I mean he's a good ass writer himself too. So um yeah, I don't know, but it's, yeah, that's, I will always check out a Matt Fraction book
Hmm.
just because he's gonna irritate me and make me think. But I'm also like frustrated at his career because, yeah, it feels like he can't finish, pun
Yeah,
intended.
I don't think I'm. I think I'm checked out, but I see somebody who I regard as a good writer, but I'm also just kind of done with. So I don't think it's almost not personal. It's just like, um, yeah. Although I have a weird thing though, like a writer who doesn't draw has to juggle chainsaws to impress me compared to a cartoonist sometimes.
Yeah, because like they're coming at it from a non-visual standpoint, or they don't have the full visual power to put into it.
Yeah, well, I think part of it is they're switching up. So um, a lot of my ability to engage with their work is like, it's like, how much do I enjoy their collaborators' drawing style?
Yeah, yeah. It's always the problem with categories. Do you categorize it with the artist or you categorize it with the writer
Yeah, I
on
feel
your
like there's always a
shelf?
captain of the ship, and if somebody is like, a friend of mine's kind of a new writer in comics right now, and he's been talking about how like when starting out, it's always referred to as like an artist book a lot of time until you have like writers will have more of like a breadth of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder, like, are Frank Quietly, uh, Grant Morrison books, or Quietly books? You know, because those guys both cast such long shadows.
Yeah, I have that problem when I'm putting things on my shelves. It's like, do I put Promethea with Alan Moore or do I put it with J.H. Williams? And
Mhm.
then do I do the J.H. Williams stuff that's with Warren Ellis and the Grant, like especially someone like him, he's worked with Neil Gaiman, he's worked with Grant Morrison. It's like, well,
And
god
now
damn it.
himself too. So
With what?
now himself too. He's got a new
Yeah.
book. The trade just came out.
So where do you put those works? Yeah, but like for some reason Fraction is always, I guess he works with like Gabriel Ba, who is pretty significantly good on his own.
Oh yeah, Bob's fantastic. And then yeah, and then lots of Zdarsky, and I don't know. And he did a run. I haven't read it yet, but my girlfriend I know is really into the run of Fantastic Four he did with Mike Allred.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, yeah. I'd have to go back and reread it to see. I mean, his Hawkeye stuff was good too, but again, I'd have to reread it to see if it holds up.
David Aja. Yeah, David Aja afterwards went on to do a book with what's the name? The woman who did a really good run on Daredevil and wrote Long Shot, Ann Nesenti.
Yeah, Seeds. I don't think they ever finished it, did they?
I remember it starting, and then it kind of, me not hearing about it again, but also I kind of checked out on a lot of new comics coming out.
Yeah, I think they fell. I think they fell behind and never finished it, or it came out. They finished it as a graphic novel or something like that.
Okay, because that would be something. Because I remember that being kind of a much more reined-in looking art style for Aja. Because when he was doing the Hawkeye stuff, it was like he had this very almost Lane Claire classic comics look.
Yeah, it was like a weird mix between like Mazzucchelli and Chris Ware.
Yeah, I remember I talked to him once at a convention in Europe and asked him about like at the time everyone was constantly comparing him to Ware, and he was annoyed by it, and he was saying that it was actually that he was looking at the airplane guides for safety, and that was what he was basing off of rather than Ware.
Well, Chris Ware is looking at the airplane guides for safety too, so that's where it came from.
They're both looking at that, whatever master made those.
Yeah, for sure. That is a good question. Who was that master?
Yeah, that is interesting because that clearly influenced a lot of people and you know, uncredited. I wonder if it's someone who went on and did other comics.
Somewhere out there, there's like the good duck artist. You know, there's like some unknown guy, uncredited guy that we're gonna discover that was like the fucking dude that was employed by IKEA.
Yeah, the IKEA man, Doug IKEA.
The good IKEA artist.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder. I mean, there's certainly guys like that. Yeah, I wonder who, because I will go down those things where you find like an uncredited old, you know, Archie or whatever old comic, and I mean that's a lot. I have a box of Toast stuff here, and a lot of the Toast stuff is just like, I feel like if you were reading it back in the day, you would probably just like that would be the best drawn thing in there that stands out.
But you wouldn't know who it was necessarily.
Well, he was smart. He always credited his stuff. He always worked it into the art.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, he knew what he was doing. So before we go, since we're talking about sex criminals, I want to tell a very sad story. I got at Second and Charles, I found a used hardcover copy of their first Big Hard Sex Criminals.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think there's 3 of those that collect the whole series, and I found number 1 used. And I was really excited because I've been wanting to get that book. So I grabbed it, and we got home, and on the inside there was a handwritten note where a guy had obviously bought Big Hard Sex Criminals number 1 and given it to this girl that he was in love with, and it was like this present he was giving her with this note about like how awesome she was and how happy he was to have her in his life and stuff like this. And then he was like, if you're ever down to Brimp, which is I think where it's like a sex move that's in the book where he's like fucking her hair while she's sticking her finger up his butt or something like that. And it's like this really heartfelt note. And then I got it as a used copy.
Yeah, it's the Hemingway thing, used baby shoes never worn. You got that, the version of that.
I don't, but I get it. And that's what it was. It was like she got this book and was like, yeah, nah, and went and like turned it in. And it was like, especially for that book, I thought that's the most perfect copy of that book to have.
It's almost crueler that she resold it and it wasn't just like, let me recycle this thing. It's like, maybe I can get a couple bucks out of this.
Yeah, like $2 on a trade-in at Second and Charles. And then Tori made me cut that page. She's like, we can't have that book with that page in the house because that's like such bad juju.
Cursed, yeah. I had friends that worked for the animator Bill Plimpton, and he got given so much stuff that he had just in his studio. He had just a stack of just like, these are comics that I'm done. You can take them. And I remember going through them and grabbing a bunch of them, and so many of them had heartfelt notes about like you're the reason that I ever started drawing and everything, and just that he'd kind of read them and be like, cool, done with that. But I mean, at that point, you'd have such an influx of stuff that I can't even. It's it's not even a dig at the guy. I think you just would read it and be like, cool, someone else can enjoy this now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit more like, great, more fan mail. Thanks, I appreciate it. Look at it. But yeah, it was It's weird. I don't like it. I don't like having notes from other people's lives in my books. That creeps me out.
Oh, I think they want. I like when you have a comic and somebody's like written like their name in it or something. There's somewhere I got rid of before I left Portland and moved to Vegas. I got rid of a bunch of my comics, and I had really old beat up ElfQuest trades from when I was a kid, and I had newer, prettier editions that I'd gotten. So I got rid of the old ones, and somebody messaged me at some point that they, or maybe the comic store Cosmic Monkey in Portland, they just found one. I'd written Brandon Graham Room 10 on it from when I was fourth grade and would take ElfQuest to school. So I was like, that'll be interesting if somebody finds that.
That's going to show up on eBay as someone got Brandon Graham Room 10
Yeah,
MILF Quest.
MILFQuest. Oh yeah, we should do an ElfQuest read through at some point too.
Yeah, I've tried reading ElfQuest, and like I always get a ways in, and then I like
Yeah, I know. That's why it's gonna be like it's gonna be like a support group to get through it for you.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to do that. I know we've talked about doing MILF Quest jokingly because we were
Oh yeah,
looking
I still think it holds up. I think it's good.
ElfQuest or the idea of MILF Quest.
Oh, both. I'm sold on both.
We were just looking at photos of someone had posted a photo of her in like Red Sonja outfit or something
Oh
like
right,
that.
when she used to dress up as Red Sonja for Frank Thorne.
Yeah, and then we were joking about doing a MILF Quest comic book.
Yeah, there's a really insulting thing in one of the I don't know if it was a Frank Thorne comic, but there's something where they introduce Wendy Penny in cosplay, and they're like for her best role, for her, like she draws comics, but her best job is dressing up as Red Sonja at convention. It was such a low ball for somebody who, like, the 1980s was like one of the most like impressive, most read cartoonists doing independent comics in America.
Yeah, great artists like pushing the boundaries of independent comics, and like you also look sexy in chainmail.
Yeah, but it was more just like she looks sexy in chainmail. Also, whatever, she does comics, not important.
Yeah, no, we would never do that book. That'd be disrespectful. But it was a funny joke.
Yeah, but no. I mean, MILFQuest doesn't have to be disrespectful.
No, no. Well, if I remember, ElfQuest has some sexy stuff in it, right?
Oh yeah, there's like orgies and all sorts of yeah. They bond to people. They'll like see someone and be like, "That's my life mate." It sounds ridiculous. That's part of it. Is I want to, as an adult, I want to start. I want to have to face how ridiculous some of the terminology in it is that I read
Okay.
about.
Well, whenever we ever finally finish Appleseed,
Sure.
ElfQuest will be, and I feel like we could go through ElfQuest faster.
Yeah, I don't think anything will be. Yeah, reading Appleseed is like this cyberpunk cop version of like doing the annotated from hell or something, or studying
Yeah,
very
yeah.
slowly.
Every page is like, okay, and then go read this like 800-page philosophy book, and then we'll come back for page 302.
Yeah, no, I felt ill prepared last time, and so I've been like digging more into Shiro to be like, okay, I'm gonna know exactly where he's going with this one.
Yeah, well, he doesn't go much of anywhere with it, unfortunately.
I mean, I'm a fan.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool stuff, but given how much I liked volume 2, volume 3 and 4 were kind of just back to the action scenes as far as
I think you're gonna be impressed. I'm looking forward, because once we get into volume, with the one with the SWAT raid, like that one, there's a whole movie we got to watch to keep up with it.
a movie. What movie?
There's a movie called He Who Dares Wins, I think it's called, and it's a British SAS movie. And Shiro used it as his major point of reference for the raid he did in that, to the point where there's scenes in it where he's even drawing like the furniture that it was in the background, in the background of Appleseed.
Swiper fired.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Just got it.
Tracer.
Him and Mobius just trace anywhere.
Yeah, a bunch of. I had all this respect for those guys, and they're just tracing Marlboro ads and shit. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll go study for that, and then we'll reconvene, hopefully with Sean back once he's all set up in his new house in St. Paul.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna freeze his ass off because he's crazy, but we'll reconvene for some Elf Quest and some more Shiro and some more fantastic. I need to go to Formalist Fridays. Thanks.
One of the best ways that you can support what we're doing here on the channel is to support the books that Sean's putting out through Living the Line. The first book that he put out is The Strange Death of Alex Raymond. It's a collaboration between Dave Sim and myself. The book was recently nominated for an Eisner Award in the Best Reality-Based category. It's a deep dive into the artwork and methods of Alex Raymond and the mystery surrounding his death in a car crash. So if you haven't grabbed that already, please do. There's also Yokoyama Yuichi's Plaza, which is a totally intense manga by an artist who has somehow figured out how to distill manga down to its purest essence. This book was successfully funded on Kickstarter, but if you missed the Kickstarter, you can order it through any comic store, any bookstore, Amazon, any place that you would normally get your graphic novels from. The Abolition of Man is a 5-issue mini-series done by myself and Sean in collaboration with the Midjourney AI. What you're seeing here is the cover to issue 1 and the first couple pages of issue 1. This first issue, we fed it an essay by C.S. Lewis, and this is just the imagery that the computer spat back at us. Issues 2 and 3 are a narrative, starting with the story that I wrote when I was 21, and then Sean's going to write issue 3, picking up where I left off. In this one, I'm kind of trying to force the AI to give me the images I want, and then doing some tweaking in Photoshop to get these kind of colored looks on it. For issue 4, we're turning the task of writing over to the AI as well. So the AI has written the script, and then we've just put that into the Midjourney AI, and it's turned out art. The script and the art is some of the absolutely most horrific stuff I've ever seen. We're a bit scared to even publish this issue. And I don't have any art to show for it yet, but Sean and I have decided to do a 5th issue of Abolition as well, because we have someone who we're really excited to have on board, providing an essay for that 5th issue that we'll illustrate, and we'll announce more about that soon. Make sure to like, smash that subscribe button, and ring that bell.